Welcome everyone, glad you're here. As for today's review, we'll be looking at the bootleg versions of the SH Figuarts Smoke Effect and the Wind Effect by acfactory. Now before we open these up, I think both effects are made by acfactory, the one that made the bootleg version of the amazing Yamaguchi Ultron figure. Now the reason I only say that because when I bought the Wind Effect, there was an acfactory on its name, but with the smoked effect, there wasn't. The only effect that I know that acfactory is making is the silver version of this smoked effect, which pairs well with the Ultron figure. So yeah. Now let's inspect the boxes or the lack of thereof, starting with the wind effect here. This actually came in a cardboard box, but it got damaged, so I decided to throw that away. It also got crumpled here on the side. Fortunately, the effects are still intact and hasn't been damaged. So here's the front of it. Here are the 4 effects. They come in 2 pieces, by the way, and the transparent rings here where the effects can be attached to with their pegs. So that's the wind effect. Here's the back. And it also did come with this like instruction. I'll probably translate that for you guys. And next we have the smoke effect here. Here's the front of it. You have a window of the effects here. Here's the side. I'll probably translate that as well. And here's the other side. Same thing. Here's the bottom. And here's the top with a little window on it. And lastly, the back. We have some promo arts for the effect and their blank figure. So yeah, those are the effects. So let's open these up. Alright, now that the effects are out of the box, let's take a closer look at them before I can showcase you on how they usually pair up with figures. So let's start with the wind effects first. So to start off, we have this large wind curved effect, or as I would like to call it, a swoosh effect. Perfect for like those massive wind up movements or pretty much any figure movement that requires like a rotation on them. So here's that. Pretty cool. Next we have the smaller version of the wind curved effect, perfect for like those wind up movements, or for example like a like an uppercut or like a round punch or anything like that that really doesn't require any rotation on them. So here's that. Pretty cool. And next to that we have the straightforward wind effect, perfect for pretty much anything that's straightforward, like a straight punch or a straight kick. So here's that. Again, pretty cool. And last but not least is what I would like to call the dash wind effect. Perfect for those like running poses or anything that leaves a wind trail behind, or maybe anything that likes to perform like dodges or side steps. This would be the perfect wind effect for those. So yeah, those are the wind effects. And as part of the wind effect set, we have these transparent rings with pegs on them. This is where you can attach the wind effects on. And as you can see, each of them come in 4 different sizes from smallest to biggest, and each pair has a different amounts of pegs on them. And the second set of effects, we have the smoke effects. This one only contains 5 different types of smoke effects, and each of them vary in different sizes and shapes. Their main function mostly is to act as a set piece in either around your figure or mostly in the background or foreground on whatever your figure is doing, like standing menacingly or doing a awesome pose. Taking a closer look at these smoke effects, let's start with the 2 small ones. I know they are in similar sizes, but they are in different shapes or in their molds. So here's the side, here's the top, and here's the bottom. So those are the 2 small smoke effects. Now for the medium smoke effects, let's start with this one. Here we have a similar shape compared to the 2 small ones. It has some paint chipping in here. Here's the sides, here's the top, and here's the bottom. And the other one is a uniquely shaped. I like this one. Here's the side. Here's the top, the other side, and the bottom. And some scratches in here. And last but not least, we have this large smoke effect. Surprisingly, this has some weight to it, comparable to the weight of like holding your phone. So yeah, here's the side, here's the other side, here's the top, and here's the bottom. And I don't know if you can see that there's like a line going around the smoke effect. I thought that this was like detachable, but it's not, and it's not budging. And it has some like, you know, bubbles forming inside of there, if you can see that. And it has some little extra, you know, part in here. You can pretty much like cut that off with like a knife or like an X-Acto knife. So I'll probably do that later. So yeah, those are the smoke effects, and they're pretty great. They don't look much like the original. They look more like they have like a foggy appearance to them compared to the original, who has like a white or like a pure white paint on it. But this is pretty much, you know, what you get with like a bootleg version of it. Alright, to show off on how to pair these effects with your figures, let's start with the smoke effects. So as an example, here's my Kingdom Come Superman. And pretty much you can just place them around your figure, like in the background or in the foreground, you know, whatever you deem like necessary on placing these smoke effects, just to set in the mood, or you know, whatever your figure is doing, like standing there, you know, heroically, or you know, doing a pose. And then after that, once you've done all the, you know, placement, you can pretty much just take your picture, or you know, set in whatever, you know, they're doing. So yeah, those are pretty much the basics of these smoke effects. So let's move on. Now for the winds effect, they're pretty much easy to use. You'll just need these rings in order to attach them to the figure. So as an example, here we have Ken doing a uppercut attack. Let's say I want to attach this wind effect on his arm. So in order to do that, I'll just have to use the appropriate like size for the ring and attach them onto this peg hole, like so. It can be a little tight, but you can just squeeze it in there and it will pop in. Then we can remove Ken's hand and just fit them right between his, you know, hand and his arm, like that. And then we can just attach his hand back again, like so. And there you go. Pretty basic on how to use these effects. But let's say, how about this, when I want to attach like this wind effect on his foot, you know, like when he's doing this like kick attack, but what any of the rings, you know, doesn't actually like fit on his, you know, foot, and you really can't like, you know, remove his foot just for, you know, maybe you don't want to. But here's an alternative on how to use this. An alternative you can use instead of those rings is this, a sticky tack. You know, they're pretty much just like clay, but you know, much more stickier. So you can just, you know, get a part of those sticky tack like this and just place them on the, you know, effect that you want to use, and just, you know, just press it down there, and then you can just attach it onto the figure, like so. And there you have it. Pretty easy. And this is actually much easier compared to those, you know, transparent rings. So yeah guys, those are the smoke and wind effects from AC Factory, a bootleg version of the SH Figuarts effects. A great product to have if you can't afford the original. My only nitpick for the, you know, smoke effects is the foggy and transparent look onto them. I would much prefer the pure white or in smoky feel of the original. So yeah, hopefully I can buy the original in the future. While the wind effects, it is pretty great. A great alternative compared to the original, especially if you don't like own the SH Figuarts Goku, because the original comes with the extra head and the two blast effects. So yeah, but my only gripe for the wind effects are these rings. I would much prefer to use the sticky tag compared to these rings, because these rings tend to move around and some of them can get like stuck on the effects, especially this one. This one I can't really move at all, because if I force it to move, it might break the peg. It might snap off. So in order to remove this, you can just dip this in hot water and just slowly wiggle it down, or wiggle it out of it, so you can, so you won't be able to break the pegs. So yeah, that's a solution if you're, one of the transparent rings gets stuck on this, wind effects. So yeah, that's it for the review, guys. Hopefully this was informative. So yeah, hope to see you again. Happy collecting. Be good, guys. See ya.